But anyway, I've given a great deal of thought to where we left things before in this big abstract question of the existence of immaterial things. I am somewhat prepared, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts on this have been. What was the exact question that I asked you to consider?
If there is an immaterial universe, how can we tell?
Yeah. If there are two universes, one of which is married to an immaterial universe, and the other of which is not married to an immaterial universe, how would the two end up being different? What would be different about their appearance? How could we tell which version we were standing in if we were standing in one of them? That was the question I posed to you. I expected that you would obsess over this all week like I have been. But maybe I was wrong.
You're right. I have not obsessed with it. And yeah, anyway. I think, because obviously anything that you can sense.
I think that we should define what material means first. What I mean by this, what I'm including in this set. Because really what I'm asking for is, do we have any well, one of the related questions to this is, can we think of any examples of things that exist but are not material that we know exist?
Gravity.
So in order to do that, we have to define what being material, what counts as being material. Obviously, I'm not wrapping my knuckles on a piece of wood right now. The wood is material. It has mass. It's tangible. It's clearly material. But there are things that aren't material, that aren't tangible, rather, that I would still say qualify as being material. Like light, for example, we know that E equals mc squared. We know that light and mass really aren't different things. So they're fundamentally alike, and they're both material things. So matter and energy both qualify. But I would say that it goes even further than that. A story is not tangible, right? A story is like what you glean from reading a book or something. It's something that lives. It's like recorded on a page and in the memories of people, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a story bears this property, that it is entirely dependent on. It is not itself tangible, but it depends on being recorded in tangible things. And as soon as all of its tangible recordings die or whatever are destroyed, it ceases to exist. If I destroy every copy of a book and everybody who remembers that story dies, that story ceases to exist, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that by that token, stories are material because they depend on something else's physical existence as a medium to continue existing. What you described as a soul, you described as something that continues to exist after the mortal vessel dies. And in that sense, that's kind of the distinction that I'm making. An immaterial thing bears this property, that if all of the physical vessels that it inhabits are destroyed, it continues to exist. And a material thing is something where it either is a physical vessel or it cannot survive in the absence of a physical vessel. If all of its physical vessels, if all the copies and all the physical vessels end up being destroyed, it ceases to exist. So that's what I'm calling material.
That's a clever argument. What about gravity? Is that even? That's not a substance, right? So it's just an effect.
Well, gravity is, as we understand it, it's the curvature of space-time. But we might then consider space-time to be a medium and gravity to be some distortion in that medium. Like the waves or like the bending of a rubber sheet, right? The rubber sheet is a medium, and the bending of it is some change in the properties of that medium that contain information. Mm-hmm. So, but destroy the rubber sheet, and that bending doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. The bending is still material. It's some change in some property of a material thing, of a tangible thing, making it itself material.
I think the definition that came first to me was, something that you can sense with one of 5 of your senses, or whose silhouette you can sense with one of 5 of your senses. So like,
yeah, I would use the word projection rather than silhouette. Silhouette, just projection is is a term that physicists would end up using.
Projection, which means like a negative image of it. That's what I'm trying to get at.
It's like an impression that it makes on something else.
Okay. Yeah.
So like light leaves an impression on your retinas. It leaves a projection. So you're not actually seeing the thing. You're seeing light that bounced off the thing, and it leaves. Imagine like a camera that it opens briefly and it burns some kind of image and then it closes again.
Yeah.
It projects outward some form of itself, and that is what is witnessed.
Yeah, it impresses itself on some material. It's materially somehow, determinable.
Yeah, but you could also say that that's just something that's like part of the natural universe. Well, but like again, we can, like, before there were night vision or like infrared goggles, right? Like a human couldn't see infrared, but then we created a tool that let us capture a projection from this thing in the world. So I would say that once you start putting in human sensory mechanisms, I would say that you've limited yourself, because we can supplement those with tools that reveal to us that there's a lot more going on.
That's a good point.
Than we would know if we only had access to those tools unsupplemented, to those sensory mechanisms unsupplemented.
Well, no, it's
maybe
not...
what you could say, it has a quantifiable impact on tangible things in the universe.
I think rather that we're expanding our knowledge of the things on which invisible things can be impressed. So like we're getting a bigger picture of like we're finding ways to manipulate the light spectrum so that it manifests itself in something that's visible to us. So what's it called? Infrared waves have always been there, and they've always been projecting, in a sense, their essence or whatever onto something that is like visible to us. But we only now have systematized a way to make it visible,
Yeah, we've only now captured it in a way that is like the way that we capture other wavelengths of light.
Yeah.
But again, I would say humanity and the human body I don't think should be part of this definition, because the universe, there's so much happening in the universe that isn't visible to just what the human body is capable of sensing.
All right. So what was your definition again?
Something that either is tangible or is stored as some change in property of tangible things, such that if the tangible mediums that it inhabits all get destroyed, it is also destroyed.
Okay. Well, that neither of our definitions solve that problem that you just posed of like, well, how do we define tangible? That seems to be in terms of the human body too.
It has it's literally made of matter and energy.
Okay, made of matter and energy. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's the things that are made of matter and energy, or distortions in the properties of things that are made of matter and energy, that cannot survive without the medium which they're distorting also continuing to survive.
Okay. Now, what sort of thing is matter and energy?
Well, I mean, it's just observable. I mean, I don't think that we're benefited from questioning what qualifies as matter and energy. I think that is self-explanatory enough that we should stop chasing down this branch, and we should move on to the next part of this structure.
Actually, I think it's I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here, obviously, but like I actually think that it's getting exactly to my point. Like, what I think that's super interesting. How is it self-evident that it's just like observable?